Living with Pharaoh Ramesses. Streamline your lifestyle with Pharaoh Ramesses in ancient Egypt. Ramesses woke up in his palace on a sunny morning. He got ready for the day as the sun rose over the Nile River. After breakfast, he met with his advisors to discuss the kingdom's activities. One advisor mentioned that farmers were planting their crops after the floods had receded. Another advisor informed him that construction on the new temple in Thebes was ongoing. Ramesses decided to visit the fields to observe the progress of the planting. Ramesses rode his horse along the Nile, passing villages and farms. In one large field, he saw peasants working hard in the mud. Ramesses asked about the progress of the planting and was told that it was going well. The floods had made the soil rich, and they were hoping for a bountiful harvest. Ramesses was pleased to hear this, as a good harvest was crucial for feeding the people of Egypt. As Ramesses continued riding, he noticed a lone peasant boy struggling to plow the hard soil with his small donkey. Ramesses asked why the boy wasn't with the others, and the boy explained that his family couldn't afford more donkeys or workers, so he had to work alone to avoid falling behind. Ramesses sympathized with the boy and didn't want any of his people to struggle. He invited the boy to come with him and took him and his donkey back to a large field. Ramesses informed the farmer that he was borrowing the boy and his donkey to help with the planting. The farmer was pleased to have the additional assistance. The boy diligently worked alongside the others throughout the day and managed to plow a significant portion of the field.
I appreciate your kindness, Pharaoh.
The boy expressed gratefully. Ramesses was happy to be of assistance. You can keep the donkey to aid your family's farm, he informed the boy. The boy was ecstatic. Ramesses proceeded on his journey, taking the time to speak with more farmers along the way. He wanted to ensure that all his people had their necessities fulfilled. As the sun set, he returned to his palace, pleased with the progress of the planting. A successful harvest would ensure the people had enough food for another year. That evening, Ramesses had dinner with his family, and they discussed the day's events. Ramesses expressed his satisfaction with the smooth planting process and emphasized the importance of a bountiful harvest for the well-being of their people. Nefertari, his wife, agreed and added that it was crucial for a pharaoh to take care of their subjects. Suddenly, their meal was interrupted by an advisor rushing into the room.
"My pharaoh, there is trouble in the city,"
he said. Ramesses, concerned, asked,
"What has happened?"
The advisor informed them that bandits had attacked a village near Memphis and stolen food and supplies from the villagers. Ramesses, filled with anger upon hearing this, declared,
"We must apprehend these bandits and recover what they stole."
He promptly assembled his soldiers and they set off towards Memphis that very night. Upon reaching the villagers guided them in the direction the bandits had escaped. The soldiers followed the bandits' footprints in the moonlight. After riding throughout the night, just before dawn, they saw a campfire in the distance. Quietly and carefully, they surrounded the camp. With a shout, Ramesses and the soldiers charged in. The bandits were suddenly awakened and a battle broke out as they fought back with daggers and clubs. However, the soldiers' training and armor gave them the upper hand. One by one, the bandits were defeated and captured. When the last bandit surrendered, Ramesses' men had only suffered a few minor injuries. After searching the camp, they discovered the stolen supplies concealed among the trees: grain bags, oil jars, and vegetable baskets. Ramesses was happy with their successful mission.
"Bring the supplies back to the village immediately,"
he commanded. As the sun came up, the villagers cheered upon seeing their pharaoh, and the soldiers returning with their stolen belongings.
"We are grateful to you, mighty Pharaoh, for recovering our food."
They expressed their gratitude. Pharaoh Ramesses returned to his palace in Memphis. Exhausted but content after recovering the stolen supplies. After resting, he met with his advisors to discuss the kingdom's matters. The construction advisor informed him that the new temple was almost finished and the dedication ceremony would soon take place. Ramesses was happy with the progress and was eager to honor the gods with the magnificent new temple. Another advisor then spoke up.
There is news from the northern borders, my pharaoh. Scouts have reported seeing unfamiliar ships along the Mediterranean coast. These ships are different from our trading vessels.
Ramesses was intrigued by these unknown ships. Could they be carrying new individuals to Egypt? Or could they potentially be a danger? He made the decision to personally travel north and observe these ships. Accompanied by a group of soldiers, Ramesses journeyed along the coastal road for several days. Eventually, they caught sight of sails on the horizon. When the ships appeared, Ramesses noticed that they were different from any Egyptian or known foreign ships. They were made of wood but had peculiar triangular sails and curved hulls. The decks were manned by men with pale skin and red hair. Ramesses instructed his men to stop and observed from a hilltop. The strangers anchored their ships in a cove and used small boats to reach the shore. Instead of linen, they were dressed in wool and leather. Ramesses approached them cautiously. With his soldiers ready, he introduced himself in English, stating,
I am Ramses, Pharaoh of Egypt. Who are you and why have you come here?
Asked the leader of the strangers. Stepping forward, Odysseus, the king of Ithaca, replied in broken Egyptian.
I am Odysseus and we are sailors from distant lands, blown off course by storms. We come in peace.
Intrigued, Ramesses invited Odysseus and his men to Memphis as his guests. Through translators, they shared feasts and conversations. And Ramesses learned about the unfamiliar lands of Greece and Troy. The Greeks spoke of gods, heroes, wars, and voyages on the deep blue sea. Ramesses shared stories of Egypt's powerful pharaohs and the deities who protected the Nile. A bond developed between Ramesses and Odysseus, who showed himself to be a smart and brave leader. When the Greeks were ready to continue their voyage home, Ramesses gave them precious gifts of gold, lapis lazuli, and exquisite fabric to bring back as marvels from faraway Egypt. In exchange, Odysseus offered Ramesses a bronze helmet adorned with depictions of Greek mythology. The Greeks sailed away again, saying goodbye as their curved ships disappeared over the horizon. Ramesses went back to Memphis, his thoughts filled with wonders from foreign lands. He had gained new friends and business partners, and Egypt's reputation had spread further than before. During the temple ceremony, Ramesses expressed his gratitude to the gods for bringing these foreigners to expand Egypt's perspective on the world. Peace and prosperity prevailed in the Nile Valley for many years under Ramesses' leadership. However, everything must eventually change. During a hot summer, a mysterious illness spread rapidly through the villages. Many people became sick with high fevers and developed bloody coughs. Some of them were too weak to work and unfortunately died, despite the efforts of the healers. As the number of deaths continued to rise, panic started to spread. Ramesses sought the help of Egypt's wisest priests and sorcerers to determine the cause of the illness and find a cure. After performing sacrifices and reciting incantations, the chief sorcerer concluded that the plague was a result of the gods' displeasure.
To appease their anger, we must make a larger offering,
he advised. Following the sorcerer's advice, Ramesses ordered the preparation of magnificent sacrifices. The plague continued to get worse, with more people being affected by the mysterious illness each day. In desperation, Ramesses traveled to the great shrine of Imhotep, an esteemed architect and healer from a previous era, whose wisdom was still respected even after his death. There, Ramesses prayed and made offerings, pleading for Imhotep's spirit to provide assistance. That night, Ramesses had a dream where he stood before the shrine and a mist appeared. Within the mist, the translucent figure of Imhotep himself emerged. Imhotep's ghostly voice declared,
"This plague is not a result of divine intervention, but rather a consequence of human actions. It spreads through contact between the sick and healthy. Isolate the sick away from villages to prevent its spread."
Ramesses woke up with a newfound understanding. He commanded the construction of camps in remote areas along the Nile. And the sick were swiftly and carefully relocated there. No longer were the sick allowed to stay with their families, risking the infection of others. Although it was a challenging order, it proved effective. Within a few months, the spread of the plague slowed down and eventually stopped. The people regained their health, and Egypt became safe again.